The sun beats down on the concrete dispersal pans at Lavadra Court. A dozen Bf-109 G6S of Jag Jeshwater 26 taxi past a captured photograph tacked to the squadron bulletin board. It shows a strange, bloated American fighter. Barrel-shaped fuselage, huge radial engine, tiny greenhouse canopy. Oberleutnant Pips Priller slaps the photo with the back of his hand and laughs so hard his ground crew join in. Look at this flying tank. They'll need a runway the length of the Autobahn to get that pig airborne. Hauptmann Joseph Priller, the Geschwader Kommode himself, wipes tears from his eyes. They call it the Thunderbolt, more like the Blunderbolt. Laughter echoes across the field. No one notices the tiny caption under the photo. Republic P-47C, combat radius with drop tanks to 800 miles. No one believes it yet. Crossed the channel that same afternoon. A brand new P-47C2 sits on the cracked PSP runway at RAF Debden. Engine cowl panels lie scattered like silver petals. Colonel Hubert Hub Zemke, commander of the 56th Fighter Group, the famous Wolf Pack, crouches beside Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabreski. Gabreski taps the massive turbo supercharger duct running under the belly like a steel python.
Nice.
They laugh now, Hub. Wait till we show up over their back garden with these 75-gallon belly tanks. Zemke just smiles. He's already calculated the math. With the new tanks, the Jug can fly to Berlin, still have fuel to dogfight on the way home. Back in Lille that night, the laughter continues in the mess. Pilots raise beer glasses to the American flying beer barrel. They have no idea that in less than 9 months, that same beer barrel will be the last thing hundreds of them ever see. December 13th, 1943. 11:42 hours. The temperature is minus 47 degrees Celsius. Inside the cockpit of P-47D5, Razi Geth II, Captain Walker Bud Mahurin, wipes frost from the inside of his canopy and stares at the fuel gauge. He's 420 miles from home, deeper over Germany than any Thunderbolt has ever flown. Behind him, 72 silver B-17s of the 3rd Bomb Division drone toward Bremen in perfect formation. For the first time in the war, the fortresses will not turn back alone. On the ground at Twente Airfield in Holland, Feldwebel Alfred Miksch of JG-1 is already airborne. Climbing hard in his brand new FW-190A7, his rotten fur S voice crackles over the radio. Bandits at 12 o'clock high, huge Amos. Wait, those aren't P-38s, they're the fat ones. Laughter ripples across the channel. Miksch banks toward the Americans, throttle wide open. He's 3,000 feet below, closing fast, already tasting the kill. Mahurin sees them first specks growing into Focke-Wulfs. He keys the mic, voice calm as Sunday breakfast. Wolfpack drop tanks on my mark. Now 72 belly tanks tumble away in perfect unison, glinting like falling stars. The Jugs suddenly leap forward, lighter by 600 pounds each. Miksch's grin fades. These aren't the sluggish targets he expected. The first burst from Mahurin's 8. 50's tears the canopy off Miksch's 190. Glass and blood spray into the slipstream. The Focke-Wulf rolls over, trailing black smoke, and falls like a stone. In 30 seconds, 3 more German fighters are gone. The radio on the German side goes silent, then erupts in panic. One voice screams the words no one ever thought they'd hear. Achtung, the Thunderbolts. They are here. All the way here. Back at Debden that night, the intelligence officer pins a new red ribbon on the map. It stretches from Essex to Bremen and back. The ribbon is 840 miles long. Someone has already chalked 2 words beneath it in big white letters. No escape. February 20th, 1944. 12:07 hours. The sky above Leipzig is a cathedral of contrails. Over 600 B-17s and B-24s of the 8th Air Force are beginning their bomb runs on the Messerschmitt factories when the B-Setschmitt factories when the B-Setsch way forward is into someone. 150 fighters, Me-109s, FW-190s, even twin-engine Zerstrers rise like hornets from fields around Braunschweig and Oschersleben. They expect the usual P-38s turning back at the German border, fortresses alone and bleeding. They get Thunderbolts instead. Colonel Hub Zemke leads the 56th Fighter Group in a sweeping curve from the north. 4 squadrons staggered like wolves above the bomber stream. Every jug carries two 108-gallon paper tanks under the wings now, plus the big belly tank. They have flown 510 miles already and still have full guns and 30 minutes of combat fuel. Hauptmann Erich Rudorfer, one of the highest-scoring aces still alive, spots them first. He has 28 kills in the last 6 months alone. Keys his mic with absolute confidence. Indians above, the fat republics. You're easy meat. 16 Gustavs roll in from the rear, cannons blinking. Zemke's voice is ice. Wolfpack, break and attack. 64 Thunderbolts flip onto their backs and plummet like falcons. The Germans suddenly realize they are not attacking bombers. They are being attacked by something that dives faster than anything with a propeller has a right to. Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, already famous for surviving 21 cannon hits in one fight, lines up Rudorfer's yellow-nosed 109. A 3-second burst, Rudorfer's engine explodes. The Gustav disintegrates at 480 miles per hour. In the next 4 minutes, the 56 claims 27 victories. The Luftwaffe controller's voice cracks on the radio. Ali Jigger, Abracon, the Thunderbolts. They are everywhere. By the time the bombers turn west, the sky is littered with burning wrecks and silk parachutes. 17 fortresses are lost, the lowest percentage yet on a deep penetration mission. The P-47s escort them all the way to the Dutch coast before peeling off, engines still purring, guns still hot. That night in the Reichsloft Fortrentiste, Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring stares at the loss board in silence. 81 fighters gone in one afternoon. A staff officer quietly removes the old joke nickname Blunderbolt from the intelligence summary. Someone writes a new one in red pencil. Jabori's giant long-range fighter. No one laughs anymore. March 6th, 1944. 13:11 hours. Berlin. For the first time in the war, the air raid sirens are howling because American bombers are actually coming, not just threatening. 730 heavy bombers, flanked by every available fighter the 8th can put up, and at the very front of the escort chain, 69 P-47Ds of the 56th and 4th Fighter Groups, flying so far into Germany that some pilots have quietly written last letters and tucked them in their flight suits. On the ground, Generalmajor Adolf Galland Geschwaderkommode of all-day fighters watches the plot board in horror. Radar controller's voice trembles. Over 200 Thunderbolts confirmed. Range now 620 kilometers from England. Still climbing, Galland slams his fist on the table so hard his Knight's Cross jumps. Impossible. The Republics cannot reach here. But the dots on the screen keep moving. At 13:19, the first wave of jugs crosses the city perimeter at 28,000 feet. Captain Don Smith of the 61st Squadron looks down and actually sees the Brandenburg Gate through breaks in the clouds. He keys the mic, half laughing, half in awe. Wolfpack, we just overflew Hitler's front porch. Anybody got a rock? Below, every available staffel is scrambled. Galland himself climbs into his personal Bf-109 G6 ass and leads the defense. They climb to 30,000 feet, and still the Thunderbolts are above them. Fat silhouettes against the sun, waiting. The attack, when it comes, is merciless. Major Dave Schilling dives the 56 straight through the German combat air patrol like a cleaver through meat. In 8 minutes, the Luftwaffe loses 28 fighters over Greater Berlin. Galland's own wingman is shot down by Lieutenant Colonel Gabreski in a single climbing turn that number 109 should ever lose. The B-17s release their loads directly over the city center. For the first time, bombs fall on the Reich Chancellery itself. The entire time, the ugly, barrel-shaped Thunderbolts circle overhead like angry gods, daring anything with a black cross to come up. When the last fortress turns west, the P-47s still have fuel for 15 more minutes of combat. They use every second. By the time the jug pilots cross the Dutch coast, the day's tally is 81 German fighters destroyed, 56 of them by P-47s. The 8th Air Force loses only 11 bombers, the lowest ratio ever on a Berlin mission. That night in the bunker, Hitler screams at Göring for 20 minutes. Göring, pale and sweating, can only repeat one sentence. The Thunderbolt is here in strength. May 12, 1944. Fliegerhorst Aalborg West, Denmark. The hangars are almost empty. Only 8 serviceable Bf-19s remain in the entire group. A brand new pilot, barely 18, walks past a bulletin board where a yellowed photograph still hangs. The same grainy picture of the fat American fighter that once made the whole staffel howl with laughter 2 years earlier. The boy stares at it for a long time. There is no laughter now. It's only the low, distant rumble of thunderbolts on armed reconnaissance, prowling the skies like they own them, because they do. By the summer of 1944, the P-47 groups have become the reapers of the Reich. They no longer just escort. They roam in packs hundreds of miles ahead of the bombers, strafing airfields, trains, even staff cars on the Autobahn. German pilots start calling them Jabo Schreck fighter-bomber terror in whispers. Experten with over 100 kills refuse to take off when thunderbolts are reported overhead. Some units simply paint fake kill markings on their planes and hide in the woods until the war ends. On August 14, 1944, Colonel Hubert Zemke is shot down by his own propeller blast in a storm. Captured, he has marched past rows of wrecked Luftwaffe fighters at a rail yard. A German guard, seeing the Wolfpack insignia on his jacket, mutters under his breath, "Der, Dick Donnerkill, you ended us." When Berlin finally falls in May 1945, American war correspondents find something strange in the abandoned Reichsluftfortran Tisti. Pinned to a wall in the fighter operations room is a single hand-painted poster. It shows a cartoonish, overweight P-47 with a giant grin, dropping bombs on a terrified black cross. Underneath, in shaky red letters, someone has written the words every German pilot eventually learned the hard way. "Wir haben gelacht," and Dan calmed der Dick. We laughed. And then the fat one came. The laughter's over. The fat fighter that couldn't turn, couldn't climb, would never reach Germany, flew all the way to Berlin and beyond, escorted the bombers that burned the Third Reich to the ground and buried the Luftwaffe in its own wreckage. It's somewhere in a quiet moment after the war. An American ground crewman painting a final victory tally on a battered jug looks up at the sky and smiles. They laughed first. History laughed last. End.